I was standing by the 14th floor coffee machine on a Tuesday morning, adding oat milk to my third cup of coffee, when Stephen Patterson walked past me like I was invisible. The CEO's son, 32 years old with a Stanford MBA and enough arrogance to fill our entire building in downtown Chicago. He didn't say good morning, didn't acknowledge the 12 years I'd given Patterson Industries, just breezed past in his expensive suit, already on his phone barking orders about restructuring. My hands were shaking slightly as I stirred my coffee. I'd been feeling it for weeks, this sense that something was coming. Stephen had been here 3 months now, brought in by his father as executive VP of operations, and he'd been looking at me like I was outdated furniture he wanted to replace. I'm Judith Chen, 41 years old, 12 years at Patterson Industries. I built the compliance department from nothing. Before me, nobody here even understood what compliance meant. Now we had 8 people, perfect audit scores, insurance premiums 30% below industry average. Judith, Stephen's voice cut through my thoughts. My office now. Not a question, not a polite request, a command. I followed him down the hall to the corner office he'd taken from our CFO 3 weeks ago. He didn't sit, didn't offer me a chair, just stood there scrolling his phone. I'm letting you go, he said, not even looking up. Effective immediately, your approach is outdated, we need fresh energy. The coffee cup in my hand felt too hot suddenly. 12 years. I'd given this company 12 years of my life, worked through my mother's illness, stayed late on my 40th birthday, built systems that protected millions in assets. Outdated, I heard myself say. My voice sounded far away. We've never failed an audit. Our compliance rating is the highest in the industry. He finally looked up and his eyes were cold. That's the problem. You're focused on maintaining instead of innovating. We're bringing in someone younger who understands modern compliance. I wanted to laugh or cry. Modern compliance, like risk management, was some tech startup you could disrupt. The Hartford insurance audit is in 2 weeks, I said quietly, trying to keep my voice steady. He waved his hand dismissively. Your team can handle it. You documented everything right. That's what compliance people do. That's when I understood. He had no idea what I actually did. No idea about the complexity, the relationships, the institutional knowledge that couldn't be put in a manual. I smiled, small, professional, giving nothing away. Of course, I said, everything is documented. I packed my office in silence. 12 years fit into 3 boxes. My team watched with faces that mixed shock and panic. Sarah, my deputy, approached carefully. Judith, she whispered, the audit, what are we supposed to? Stephen has it covered, I said, loud enough for others to hear. He said you can handle it. Her face went pale. She knew, they all knew what was coming. I drove home barely seeing the road. My hands gripped the steering wheel too tight. When I got to my apartment, I sat on the couch staring at nothing. This was my life now. 41, single, fired, with nothing to show for 12 years except cardboard boxes. My phone rang at 6:47 p.m. Richard Patterson, the CEO, Stephen's father. Judith, his voice was tight. What happened? Your son fired me, I said flatly, said I was outdated. Long pause, he didn't consult me. Apparently he didn't need to. The Hartford audit is in 2 weeks. I know. Judith, his voice softened. I know you're upset, but we need to discuss transition, the audit process. Richard, I interrupted, did Stephen read my employment contract? Silence. Did he? I pressed, feeling something shift inside me. Not anger, something colder, more controlled. Wise. Section 7.3, the clause you insisted on after the Williams disaster 8 years ago. I heard papers rustling. The Williams disaster, when our last compliance officer left and we almost lost everything during an audit. Jesus Christ, Richard breathed. You're the only authorized representative for insurance audit negotiations. That's right, I said calmly. According to my contract, I'm the sole liaison with Hartford Insurance. No one else has authority to negotiate terms or represent the company during audits. Surely your team. The contract is with me personally, Richard. Hartford's agreement 3 years ago was for 1 point of contact. Stability, that's me, not Sarah, not whoever Stephen hired me. You can't just... I'm not doing anything. Your son terminated me, which means in 2 weeks Hartford shows up and there's no authorized representative. What happens then? Audit fails automatically. Insurance policy voids, all 300 million in coverage, gone, and with the Riverside lawsuit pending, 200 million in potential damages, you're personally exposed. The Riverside lawsuit was a nightmare. A customer seriously injured using our component. Without insurance, it could destroy everything. Richard was silent. Then I'll call you back. He hung up. I sat there feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Control. For the first time in 12 years, I held all the cards. An hour later, Stephen called. We need you back, he said, voice tight, no apology. There's been a misunderstanding. Has there? The audit situation. We didn't realize about your contract clause. Obviously, we need to discuss. No, I said simply. Silence. What do you mean no? His voice rose. This is a crisis. The company fired me for being outdated, I said. I'm sure your fresh approach will handle it. Don't be ridiculous. Stephen, I interrupted. I don't work for you anymore. You made that clear this morning. I hung up. For the first time all day I smiled, a real smile. 14 minutes later, Richard called my landline. Judith, he said carefully, please let's be reasonable. I'm being perfectly reasonable. Your son made a business decision, now deal with the consequences. What do you want? I want to not work for someone who thinks 12 years of expertise is outdated, I said. My voice cracked slightly. I want to not work for someone who fires people without basic respect. I'll talk to Stephen. He made a mistake. That's between you and your son. Judith, his voice hardened. If you don't come back, hundreds of people lose their jobs. Sarah, your whole team, people who had nothing to do with this. I closed my eyes. He was right. Sarah had 2 kids. Tom was supporting his parents. This wasn't about them. I'll come back, I said finally, under conditions. Name them. Everything in writing. Chief Compliance Officer reporting to you only. Full autonomy over my department. Stephen has no involvement in compliance, ever. And I want a public acknowledgement. I was wrongly terminated. Done, Richard said instantly. One more thing, who's replacing me? Pause. Blake Morrison, young consulting background. Compliance experience. He's a quick learner. I almost laughed. A quick learner for a Hartford audit. Tell Blake he can shadow me. Maybe he'll learn what compliance actually means. The next morning, walking back into that building felt surreal. The receptionist's eyes went wide, so did everyone in the halls. Sarah practically ran to me. Thank God you're back. Just for the audit, I said carefully. Stephen was nowhere to be seen. Richard had sent him to the West Coast office, getting him out of the way. Blake Morrison was in my old office, 28 years old, eager smile, expensive suit. Ms. Chen, I'm Blake, excited to learn from you. I almost felt sorry for him. Have you reviewed the Hartford requirements? I asked. His smile faltered. I've started, there's a lot of material. 842 pages, I said, plus appendices, plus our internal documentation, plus 3 years of correspondence. Have you contacted Hartford? I thought I'd wait until. Good instinct, I said, because Hartford doesn't know you exist, and if you'd contacted them claiming to be compliance director, they'd have flagged it as unauthorized personnel change and potentially voided the audit. His face went pale. I didn't know. That's the problem. You don't know what you don't know, and what you don't know can destroy a company. Over the next week I walked Blake through the basics. He tried, he was smart, but compliance isn't learned in a week. The audit began Monday. 3 Hartford representatives arrived, Jennifer Marks, Tom Brennan, Carol Wu. I'd worked with all of them for years. Judith, Jennifer smiled genuinely. Good to see you, we heard you'd left. Temporary misunderstanding, I said smoothly. I'm back. Thank God, Tom said. No offense to your successor, but we were nervous. Carol pulled me aside during break. Off the record, she said quietly, we were prepared to recommend suspension of coverage if you weren't here. Really? She nodded. Your protocols are excellent but complex. We need someone we trust, that's you. The audit took 3 days, intensive, exhausting. Blake shadowed me, beginning to understand what he'd stepped into. Day 3, Jennifer signed the final report. Perfect score, 12 years in a row, Judith. Richard appeared for the sign-off, looking relieved. Excellent work. Just doing my job, I said. That evening, Richard asked me to stay late. I owe you an apology, he said. What Stephen did was unacceptable. Yes, I said simply. I want you as Chief Compliance Officer. The contract is ready, and I'm moving Stephen to strategic planning. He won't have operational authority anymore. I thought that was the end. I was wrong. I thought that was the end, that we could move forward. I was completely wrong. 2 weeks later, strange things started happening. Small things at first, easy to dismiss. My access to certain files was mysteriously revoked. An important email I'd sent about audit procedures was deleted from the system. A report I prepared for the board was altered, making me look incompetent. My team started getting pulled into meetings I knew nothing about. Sarah came to me uncomfortable. Stephen's been asking about the audit process, she said quietly, specifically about vulnerabilities in how we structured things. I went still. What did you tell him? Nothing, but Judith, I think he's trying to undermine you. I should have seen it coming. Stephen had been humiliated. His father stripped his power and I was the reason. Of course he wanted revenge. The attacks got worse. Emails appeared from my address with wrong information. Calendar invitations changed, making me miss important meetings. Small sabotage designed to make me look incompetent. I documented everything, screenshots, logs, detailed records. Then the big one hit. An anonymous HR complaint, claiming I verbally abused Blake Morrison, created a hostile environment, made discriminatory comments about his age. Completely fabricated, every word a lie. Blake came to me immediately, distressed. I didn't file that, you've been nothing but professional. I know, I said, but someone did. HR launched an investigation. I was placed on administrative leave. But I'd built my case. I sent everything to Richard directly, every screenshot, every timeline. The pattern was clear. Richard called 2 days later. Come to the office tomorrow, 9 a.m., conference room. When I arrived, external investigators were waiting, forensic auditors. Ms. Chen, the lead investigator, said, "We've reviewed your documentation. We'd like to show you what we found." They pulled up computer logs, digital footprints, email headers. Stephen had been sloppy. He'd used his assistant's login for some attacks, his own access for others, every piece of sabotage traced directly back to him. The hostile work environment complaint, filed from his office computer. The altered board report, changed using his executive access privileges. We also found something else, the investigator said, pulling up more screens. What they showed me next changed everything. Subscribe now to see the shocking evidence, Stephen's complete downfall, and Judith's ultimate revenge. Fire. The full story reveals the devastating discovery, the confrontation, and how Judith became executive vice president.